you can't listen to all truck drivers because if they don't have this, they're not gonna make a lot of money.
Good. Hold on, man. You spitting? Hold on. I need to get some water real quick because you giving away too much. They should be paying you for this. What's up, everyone? This is Deontay. I'm the Roommate Investor. Today I have a very special guest with you all. He's a six-figure business owner, owns multiple businesses with no formal training, no degree, just had that grit and had that entrepreneur spirit, and he was able to become a successful business owner and a tycoon in the trucking industry. So with no further ado, I want to introduce you all to one of my good friends and business partners, Mr. Kyrie.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
So today we're just going to do a video just to compare the differences between the trucking industry and real estate industry. Everyone is always asking, you know, how do you get into real estate, you know, and trucking is a very big thing these days. So why not bring in two successful people who's been there and done that? So before we get started, I just wanted to let Kyrie take the ring and give him a little intro about himself.
So, you know, I've been in the trucking field for 6 years now. I went in not knowing a single thing and just kind of learned and listened a lot. And have used that knowledge and used my fails to help me grow and become a little bit more productive, dominant, and make a bunch of money. So I'm glad I'm here because I get a lot of questions about trucking, what to do, how to do. So I'm glad my friend Deontay has given me this opportunity to be able to share some of my knowledge to be able to help others hopefully follow in the same footsteps or at least avoid the same mistakes that I made.
Yep, sounds good. And you know, we're just here, we're just trying to help people, you know. We're trying to, you know, give back to others. We're getting all these questions, but you know, no one knows what to do. So first question would be, like, to get into trucking, do you need a degree or a license?
So trucking now, there's been a law that has been passed recently, which I'm not 100% if it was nationwide, but I know for a lot of states now, in order to become a truck driver, you have to go to driving school. So it is considered a trade school. So you have to go to driving school. You get your permit. You got to do every state's different on what it takes to pass to get your license specifically. So you have to follow your state guidelines, but you have a pre-trip, you have backing, and then you have a driving test in order to get your license. So you can't. There was a lot of ways to get around it to kind of get your CDL faster, which made you ill experienced and would put you in bad situations. But a lot of people wanted to get to the money first. But now with that law being passed, there's a lot of less people being inexperienced going into, you know, something that's 70 feet, 65 feet long, and making sure, you know, you don't hurt anybody or yourself. So no license, but it is a trade school. And it is something that is a process, and there's ways that you can do it for free. You can get grants, or you're gonna have to pay some money. There's a lot of schools out there, a lot of different ways to get in. You just gotta find which way is best for you.
Okay. And like, what would be like the typical cost for the normal person?
Normal person, you're probably looking at anywhere from like $2,500 to $5,000. And that will run you everything basically you would need to get your license. But you're looking at somewhere of a 1 to 3 month process for that amount of money. So there's a lot of information you have to learn. But you do the same thing every day. So at first, you got to be a sponge and you got to grasp so much so fast, so it seems like a lot, but as you continue each day to learn that you just do the same thing every day, so once you know it, you won't forget it.
Okay. And the school, is it paper? Are you in the truck? Or how do they split the time with that?
So you start off, if you don't have your permit, which most places make you have to get your permit, you start off in the book.
Okay.
You start off by making sure that you have the general knowledge to be able to get your permit, and then from there you start working with the truck. You take all that knowledge, you apply it to the truck to learn, okay, all this stuff I learned in the book, this is where it's at, this is how you use it, this is what this is. And then you start driving, you start backing. Backing is by far the hardest thing to learn, and it takes the most amount of time. So you spend a little bit of time in the paper, but most of the time's in that truck.
Okay, and backing up the truck?
Backing up, because you back up so much. Most accidents for trucking is actually during the backing process, because truck stops. There's a lot of truck stops where you get put in really bad situations as far as parking wise, and if you don't have that experience to know how to back correctly, you will end up hitting another person's truck. And it's more embarrassing than anything, because you're hitting something that's not moving. But you back up so much. You back up to docks. You back up in truck spots. You back up at least 2-3 times a day. So it's something you do all the time. But the backing is almost never the same depending on the situation you're in. So that's what makes it so difficult.
Okay, I would imagine like the new trucks have cameras and technology.
No, it depends on the type of trucking you do, because if you do trucking where you use the same camera, people do put a camera on the back of the trailer because they stick with that trailer. But with most companies, because there's multiple trailers, you're swapping so much, you don't keep a camera on the back of it. So that's what makes it hard. And there's no rear view mirror. You only have your side mirrors. So you have to guesstimate when you're looking to your left, you got to make sure whatever's to the right of you is in clear position to make it, even though you can't see it. Which is why in school and everywhere else, they always tell you, get out and look, because it's better to be safe than sorry.
I see a lot of information. I hope y'all have y'all notebook out.
And write it down. It goes a long way.
Now, before we get into a little real estate, because you're giving a lot of knowledge right now, how many times have you hit someone while backing up?
I've actually hit one person while I was in training. There's a thing called tandems on your trailer, where it goes from like 4 to 15. You slide the tandems to make your trailer longer or shorter. And one thing you're not supposed to do is ride with your tandems all the way back to make your trailer the longest. So when I was backing up as in my tandems were short and my trailer being shorter, but it was actually longer. So my precision was off, and I ended up hitting a guy's truck. And again, it was embarrassing because it's something that I should have known, but because I was so fresh and new, it just didn't click into me that, since I slid my tandems, I need to slide them back. But after I got loaded, I just pulled off and I didn't slide them, and my precision was all off and ended up hitting somebody. But I haven't backed into anybody since. So I failed that I learned from, and I know it'll never happen again. So I've been good since then.
Yeah, and we're always going to make mistakes.
Always
starting something new and trying. But you went out there, you gave it a try. Did you know anyone in trucking when you started?
I did, actually.
Okay.
I had 2 friends. One of them was the reason why I went into trucking, and they both guided me heavily to try to point me in the right direction, and to give me the help I needed. But I also still had to learn for myself. But I did have 2 friends. I worked with one of them for my first year. I learned so much from it, and I learned that whole first year we did everything wrong, unfortunately. But I didn't know that until I had to go out on my own and then realize, like, man, we was doing this backwards. But that's the way it is sometimes, Yeah,
definitely. Okay, well, we spoke way too much about trucking.
Come on, I'm ready to hear this real estate.
So I just wanted to give you all, the little details about real estate, and we're just going to compare the two. We would just want to give both perspectives, since real estate and trucking is so big right now.
It's a lot of money in both.
So one conception people think with dealing with real estate is you need $20,000, $30,000 down to start.
Okay.
But much like trucking, you know, you can start with 2,000, even maybe around 1,000, all the way up to 5,000 to 6,000 starting when buying your first home. And so basically there's mortgage programs and loan programs out there, 0% down loans, 3% down loans in order for you to acquire your first property. And really all you need is a decent, stable income. And you just need to have, you know, credit that's been built up over time. And you just don't need to have too many debts. And so anyone can buy a house. I always tell people to go speak with a mortgage lender. You can Google mortgage lenders in my area, because a lot of us don't know. We don't know where to start. So that's where you start. We think that we're not ready. But how do you know you're not ready if no one ever told you that you're not ready?
Right.
So you can simply contact a mortgage lender in your area, and they'll run your credit score, and they'll let you know how much you can qualify. Now, a lot of the time, they will tell you, oh, you need to pay down this credit card. You need to consolidate this student loan debt over here if you want to qualify for more or less.
Right.
But at least now you have a baseline.
Right.
And so now you know, oh, wow, I didn't even know I could qualify for 100,000. And if I do this, I could qualify for 150,000. Right. So you don't need any classes to become a real estate investor. The classes are for when you want to become a realtor.
Right.
And the only difference, the main difference is realtors can buy and sell homes for other people.
Right.
But when you're an investor, you can only buy and sell homes for yourself. Yeah. So I've been in real estate for 6 years, and I don't have a license. So that's another misconception that you know people have to do. You don't have to go to school. So unlike trucking, you know, 1 to 3 months of school, you can call a mortgage lender today, get pre-qualified. You can have a house in 30 days with no experience. So, you know, real estate has been very successful for me. One thing, you know, with dealing with real estate, you need to understand it's a long-term game. Real estate isn't get rich quick. You know, just because you see a lot of people owning all these properties and these units on Instagram and social media, they put in a lot of work and they deal with a lot of issues. A lot of issues. And sometimes they post them, but a lot of times they don't. So, you know, just know when you're getting into real estate, you know, things happen and things will come up. You know, it's a house. At the end of the day, a house can deteriorate. So you want to make sure that, you know, you're preparing every aspect, you know, with your savings, with risk mitigation. You want to make sure, you know, you're getting your proper inspections. And all this is called due diligence. And there's people who can help you with all of this. So just like you had help in trucking with your friends in the school, we don't go to school, but we have our realtors to help us, our mortgage lenders to help us, friends. Everyone's in the real estate industry to some capacity these days. Anyway, 1 out of every 3 people. I made that up, but I'm guessing at least 1 out of every 3 people are in the real estate industry to some capacity. So just through just networking, learning your area, going to different group meetups and things, that's all you need to get started. And a little bit of money, because you want to make sure when you buy a home and something goes wrong, that you can cover it. Because when you're renting, you don't have to worry about that. But when you buy, now it's on you.
Right.
So that's a good little intro between the differences between real estate and trucking. So is there, so you passed the class. So what will be next? After you pass your class when dealing with trucking?
Okay, so after you get your license, most companies want you to do over-the-road driving, which is called OTR driving. The reason being is because you're going to gain the most experience doing it. So most companies want 6 months of over-the-road driving, and then you can basically get a job anywhere, local, regional, it doesn't matter. Because local routes and regional routes, you usually go to the same places, and you don't really get a lot of experience from that. So they want you to go over the road so that you can get all the kinks out, all the messes up, everything that you're going to do. They want that out the way because the most money is in over the road. So if you do run into problems or anything of that nature, because it's over the road driving, you make that money out faster. As far as local and regional, if you're making those same mistakes there compared to over the road, they're not going to be as happy, because it's usually not nearly as much money in doing those routes compared to over the road. So usually 6 months over the road, and then you can really go anywhere you want from there. Some places will take less. It really depends on how desperate companies are, but they like to have people have that over the road experience because it is very vital, and it's also great for yourself as well.
Okay. So when starting out, you would recommend driving far longer routes than the short local routes?
Yes, it's good to try all avenues, because you don't know what you're gonna like. And a lot of people go, well, I can't be away from home, and I can't. How do you know you can't do it if you haven't tried it yet? You're already cutting yourself short. And everybody has, their what they can accept and what they can't accept, and I understand and I get it. But the thing is if you're trying to build, success, wealth, or even an empire, you got to understand that all that comes with sacrifice. So you got to put your pride aside, you got to put your ego aside, you got to put your standards that you originally had aside, and you got to figure out, okay, how can I go out and accomplish what I'm out here to do? And being able to do that means you got to try as much as you can with as little risk as possible, if possible. So driving over the road for 3 to 6 months, it's going to fly by. I promise you, it flies by so fast. So if that's what's stopping you, give it a shot. It's really not as bad as you think. There's a whole system of how to be able to live out, over the road, and how to, stay clean, stay safe, stay healthy. There's a whole system. Just give it a shot and talk to other people that drive, because I guarantee you there's more truck drivers than you know if you start asking, or even just go to a truck stop and just start talking to one, because they love to talk. So all you gotta do is ask one question, you'll be there for an hour. You have all the information you need. So definitely don't limit yourself.
So that's good. So there's always someone willing to help.
Oh yeah. They'll help you. There's too many people that want to help you, if I'm being honest. There's too many people. So you got to take, when it comes to truck drivers, because a lot of them like to give their experience to you, which they shouldn't do. They should give perspective. So you got to kind of take a little bit of what everybody says to you and then apply it to what you think will best work for you. Because if I listen to everybody that told me something, I'd be broke right now, because not all of them give good information, which is with everything in life. But you got to figure out what's going to work best for you. But everybody is willing to help, though, for sure, without a doubt.
And the strategy I use when, I know I'm looking to learn something, I'm trying to start something, I try to get as many opinions as I can and do as much research as I can. You'll realize, like, certain things will start to line up, and the same people will start saying the same thing over and over, and that's how
you know it's good information. That's how you know. When I heard someone say that before, and they go, oh yeah, and then they go in depth. That's how you know it's good information right there, when you heard the same thing.
And a lot of people would try to discourage you, say, well, the truck's going to break down, or what's going to happen when the renters can't pay, and this and that. They always go to the negative, and they're never, seeing the positive. And they don't realize that, there's risk into going into any business, but there's also risk not going into business.
If there's anything which I know you've come across, I know I've come across, and anybody who's, became successful, it's going to be those people that wanted to do what you're doing and didn't do it, so they'll use those negatives to try to stop you from doing it. And you can't let those people determine how you become successful on your journey. So you have to be careful of those people, because I'm sure Deontay has had it where he talks about him being into real estate and what he's done. I'm sure he's had people say, oh, well, I thought about doing this, and I thought about doing it this way, and I thought about doing this, but they never did it, because they never truly believed in themselves to be able to do it. So don't let those people take anything away from what you're about to do, because they definitely can. All those doubts that you have before starting, man, one conversation could just make it all come up and stop everything you was about to do. So you got to be careful who you talk to. And as soon as you start to notice them doing that, you got to just figure out, how can I get out of this conversation? Because I don't want them to take away what I'm about to do. So definitely be careful, and don't let those people stop you from reaching your true goal.
There's always somebody successful in what you want to do, in the field that you want to go into.
Yes,
always. There's always, so there's that there's a way out.
Exactly.
So you just need to emulate what they did. And so with real estate, just like, just you said you could drive local or regional or
I'm sure it's
far.
the same with investing.
Yeah, with investing, we have different options as well. So we can go Airbnb, we can go long term to like a family, we could rent to military, we could do Section 8 housing, get paid by the government. We can do short term rentals, mid-term rentals, which is maybe 30 to 60 day long rentals for people, who's just visiting for the summer, interns. There's so many routes to go with real estate. So maybe short-term rentals may not be your best option because you work a day job, you have a family, and you can't be hands-on. Although there are systems you can put into place to do short-term rentals, that may not be your best option starting out. Maybe you want to do Section 8. Section 8 is guaranteed money from the government, and you just have to keep the house up to standard. Every year they do an inspection. So there's plenty of options with real estate, plenty of options with trucking.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what mistakes do you think you've made with trucking?
So I'm going to speak as far as like the lease or the owner operator side, because I think there's more risk in that than being like a company or someone that gets paid by the hour. A lot of mistakes I made, especially my first year, was spending habits. And being a first-time business owner was when I first got into trucking. I didn't really understand taxes, how to keep up with my taxes, how to file my taxes correctly. I didn't understand a lot of that. So I thought that with being over the road, you get a per diem that you can write off every day, and it changes every year. So I think at the time it was like $55 per day. So I'm thinking, at the end of the year they're gonna give me $55 for every day that I was out, and then I get to keep that money, then pay my taxes. But the way it works is that $55 is already a write-off that comes off of what you gross for the year. So I didn't know that. I thought I get it and then I can give. So when it came to tax time and they told me how much I owed, I was like, well, I ain't got that. And then I learned real quick, okay, I need to switch up how I'm spending this money, because I was going home every month with money in my pocket, spending it, because I ain't never had it. So I didn't know what to do. So that was one thing. And the biggest thing, which this is for a company, lease, whatever, doesn't matter, is understanding how to work your clock, okay? For anybody that doesn't know about trucking, you have something that's called a log. It can be e-log, it can be paper log, it doesn't matter. You're only allowed to work 70 hours in an 8-day span, okay? So you have to manage each day correctly, because you don't want to have a day where you can't move, because if you don't move, you don't make no money. So understanding your logs and how to perfect your logs is by far the most important thing that you can do. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think it's all about, I got good loads, and I'm making as much money as possible doing this, or I'm moving. All that's irrelevant if you can't drive. And if you drive over those 70 hours and you get pulled over, you get a big fine and they shut you down for the day. And you don't want either one of those, because shutting you down when you're supposed to be moving means you're more than likely going to be late. And then that fine is something that you really don't want to pay, because the government already gets enough money. You don't want to give them any more. So those two, I would say, are the biggest. There's a lot of little things that come into it, but if there's anything, it would definitely be those two that I would say you want to learn real fast.
Now, is this rule because of the danger of driving too much and getting tired?
Yeah, so the logs really came into effect after the whole Walmart Tracy Morgan accident, where that driver had been driving for like 30 hours straight or something like that, and he had lied about his logs and fell asleep. After that whole situation happened and it became such a big spotlight, the DOT really started cracking down on how logs can work and having e-logs, where basically it's really hard to be able to lie about your logs, because with paper logs you can kind of maneuver it however you want. A lot of people do it, and if you're good at it, you really know how to do it without getting caught. But with e-logs it's really hard to do. So that's why it kind of happened, is a lot of people will do a team load when they're solo, and that's really dangerous. But because a lot of people can be money hungry, they do things like that, and it just puts everybody else in jeopardy, and it makes other truck drivers look bad. So it's definitely a good thing that has happened, but it does make it harder to be able to make a lot of money if you don't know how to be efficient, which is why you got to be smart. And if you're not smart up here to apply it everywhere else, it's really hard to say, you're going to go out there and make a lot of money, which is why I said you can't listen to all truck drivers, because if they don't have this, they're not going to make a lot of money.
Hold on, man. You spitting. Hold on. I need to get some water real quick, because you giving away too much. They should be paying you for this.
You know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, some of the mistakes I've made in real estate, or
let's hear 'em.
people can make in general. Let's see. I mean, one mistake that I'm paying for right now, just like similar to what you said, but with taxes.
Taxes, man.
I would say, make sure you have a good accountant up front. With real estate, there's a team. You have a team of people. You need definitely a good lawyer. You need a good accountant. You need a good lender, good realtor, good inspector. But once you meet one person, everyone else will help you find what you need.
Right.
Good people know good people. So, a good accountant up front can help you manage your paperwork and track everything and what's going on. You really want to start with that good foundation. But a lot of times, what do? We just get going, which is fine. I'd rather do something than not do anything at all.
I agree.
But if you're listening to people like us, it's better to take in the information we're giving you first, so you don't have to do that. So, when you're starting on that good foundation, it's just going to propel you on the right path from the beginning. But of course, I knew that, but I waited maybe year 2, year 3, and now I'm all out of sync. And now, of course, they're going to charge you more to get your paperwork in order. And I'm actually, still having issues with this because I didn't start properly. So I was growing and moving fast, but my foundation wasn't set. So definitely you want to make sure you have a good accountant. You want to make sure that, you're constantly learning about home ownership. There's things that termite and moisture.
Right.
You want to make sure you're keeping your termites up to date. You want to make sure the house is structurally sound. You want to make sure your HVAC is being serviced when it should. You don't want to wait for an issue to happen. You want to try to mitigate these things before they happen, because once it happens, it's already too late. Once the disease comes, there's nothing you can do. So you just want to upkeep. So that's why it's good to live in the first property you own first, because you're learning how to be a landlord. The way I teach, as far as getting roommates, now you're learning how to manage tenants. You're learning how to take payments. You're learning how to deal with civil matters, even maybe evictions. So by you getting in the game first, just like in trucking, eventually in trucking you could be an owner. You don't have to drive, but by you starting off driving first, now nobody can tell you anything, because you
everything.
You already know. So can't nobody tell you. You can't tell me that my HVAC system works this way when I lived in this property for 2 years.
Right.
So those are definitely some mistakes. Another mistake is you can't be too nice in business, and you have to make sure you separate your personal from your business. So, for instance, if you have roommates or you have tenants, you may build a good relationship with them, but sometimes people will try to take advantage of the relationship that they have with you in order to pay rent late. And then what happens? It continues to get later and later, and now, you know, you're 60 days in, and now you're just now filing your eviction paperwork. Now they're in your property for 120 days later for free. And then you never hear from this person again who you called your friend, because you're mixing business with pleasure. So, and you really can't be too nice in business. A lot of people are going to take advantage of you, especially in real estate. Especially you're these contractors, they don't care. They just worried about the next job, the next money.
Right.
They will take your money and use your money for the next job, and you will never hear from them again. A lot of these contractors are behind schedule on their other jobs, and they're using the money that you're giving them in order for you to start your job to pay back what they owe from the last job. So do not take people's word for granted. Maybe, you know, after a while, you know, after you build a good solid foundation and business relationship, maybe. But general rule of speaking, you really want to have everything down in writing, and never pay people up front. Sometimes, you know, when you're dealing with bigger jobs, you may have to put 10% down. You may can find someone where you don't have to, but because they say, you know, they need to buy the materials. Well, a way to get around that is you can go buy the materials for them. They do the work, and then you pay them the labor once they're done with the labor. But that way you didn't give them money for the labor without them doing any labor.
Right.
Yeah. So these are some common mistakes that, I mean, we're all going to make mistakes, you know. Sometimes we get in desperate situations where our timeline is coming close, and we're just like, oh, well, here, go ahead, take the money. And once they sense desperation, it's over, because, you know, they're going to start to take advantage and manipulate. Now, this isn't everyone, but, you know, especially when COVID started and the amount of work, home improvement projects that people were doing, these contractors were so busy, they were making so much money. So they, you know, the little people like us or someone getting started, they don't care about us. They want to go to those big $50,000, $60,000 jobs. So, you know, you give them a $5,000 job, they might take half your money and then come on their time and not come on the time that they told you. But now you're sitting there waiting, but you're not going to someone else because you already gave them $2,000, $3,000. So, you know, unfortunately, you know, business can be cutthroat, but, you know, it has its advantages as well. So, yeah, that's, you know, that's some of the mistakes and things to look out for. If you like what you hear, if you want to get more videos like this, you can follow, like, subscribe. If you have any questions, just leave comments. I'm the Roommate Investor, and you can follow him at Kyrie. So let's get back into the interview. So what are some advantages that you have when you're dealing in the trucking industry?
So there are a lot of advantages. One of them is the amount of people I don't have to deal with. I don't have a manager that breathes down my neck. I don't have an employee that I have to fight with, or I don't like, or sit next to, or man, there's very little people I interact with daily. I'll probably see on average 3 to 5 people a day that I actually talk to, and I probably see about 20 people in each day. So it's really nice to not have to worry about someone else affecting my daily routine, drive, you know, aura, whatever the case may be. I don't have to worry about that. The other thing is if you know how to be strict, you don't spend a lot of money over the road. The most money you usually spend is going to be on food. Trucking food is what we call it. You know, truck stop food, restaurants, things of that nature. Because a truck stop is usually a little bit more expensive than going anywhere else, even regular gas stations. So if you can avoid spending money in there, you really don't spend a lot of money over the road. Stability. Trucking will never go away. Even with these automatic trucks that they're talking about and all that, it will never go away. On average, there's 30,000 jobs available every single day as far as trucking. So you could be the worst driver, you could be the best driver. I guarantee you, a trucker has a job. If you talk to anybody that has a CDL that no longer has it, they'll go, if I ever need a job, I always got my CDL. And that's the biggest thing about it, is that people always need food. People always need product. Even Amazon and Walmart and all these online businesses or ordering stuff online, a truck still provides it. So you'll never have to worry about a job. Another advantage, man. I'm trying to think of if there's anything big, because there's a lot of personal ones that you can have, but I'm trying to think of just anything generic. I think those two are probably the biggest generic big ones, without getting too personal and thinking about things that benefits me specifically.
Yeah, essentially, you can not pay rent or mortgage because you can live on the truck.
That too. I haven't had a car payment in 6 years, because I really don't need a car. And then if I do need one, I just pay it cash. So that's another thing is, and it also goes in hand with, like, if you wanted to do both trucking and real estate. I have a friend that has a house that, since he's over the road, he rents out his house. So his all his utilities, his mortgage payment, all that's taken care of, plus he makes money on top of it because he doesn't live there. So there's a lot of, again, personal things that you can find that might fit you more. But there's a lot of people, like my first year when I spent a lot of money, there is a lot of people that still spend a lot of money. They have all these things that they don't necessarily need, but they're like, they're just in this habit of designer and needing to always look good and things like that. If that's what fits you, that's what fits you. But you got to figure out, again, what's your goal, what's your end goal, what are you out there to do? And if that doesn't fit it, you shouldn't do it. So
this is why it's important to really, like, have that strong networking group.
Yeah.
Have that community, and look who you're speaking to every day.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard. You're making all this money with trucking.
Yep.
You have no housing payment.
Yep.
You have no real bills because you're on the road.
Yep.
So you're making money. Your instinct is to let me go spend it.
Yeah, spend it. Yeah, absolutely.
So you need to make sure you're staying with the right community groups. You're having the right conversations. You're staying in tune with, your goal, who you are, where you want to go. You're reading. You have time. Once you park for the night, you have time to read. You have your own alone time. This is time to be planning and being strategic with what you're doing, because you can make so much money, but it can be a downfall at the same time.
Well, the more money you make, the more the government tries to take. So you got to understand, if you are going to spend money, it needs to be a write-off. There's not much I spend as far as big purchases that I don't write off. So you got to understand that the more you make, the more the government wants to take. So don't just go out spending buku money and not think that the government gonna come and try to take it back, because they absolutely will. It might not be right away. It might not be in 2 or 3 years, but trust and believe. When they see that you made a lot and you didn't file or you didn't pay, they're going to come. And when they come in ways that you wish they didn't. So it's better to be on it than to wait for them to come and get you. Because when they come and get you, it's too late. Like he said, you want to keep the upkeep. All that is upkeep. Because once that problem's come, the problem's too late. And at that point, you're in a hole. And you got to really dig yourself out. It's not fun, and it's a process, because I've been there myself. So it's something I had to learn myself.
And one key thing you said, not having to deal with people. So, really, you can use trucking to replace your job.
Yeah.
And, when starting off with real estate, you kind of want to have a job and do real estate on the side to start off with. But with trucking, you can actually replace your job and go head on to trucking. And so that that's a plus, and dealing with people is a negative for me. I'm constantly getting yelled at by tenants or contractors or parents, just friends of the tenants who have no business even dealing with me. Everyone thinks that they're entitled to things. I deal with a lot of people who are really first-time renters.
Right.
Because I deal with a lot of younger college folks and young professionals who may have been in school their whole life. So they don't know that basic things with the house, and they may call you for everything when that's not even my issue. Now, a lot of the times I do try to, help them when I can. When you're dealing with people who don't understand, it could be frustrating sometimes. But with that being said, I mean, real estate does have many advantages as well.
Yeah,
so, you get to write off things that you were doing anyway. You're paying mortgage interest anyway when owning a home, but now you can write it off. You're getting more tax deductions because now you can, for investment properties, there's certain things you can't write off with your primary residence that you can write off with investment properties. So the key is to get investment properties as soon as possible. But once you start getting these write-offs, then you're getting more money with your taxes each year as you continue to grow to help offset your normal daily job income. You can do real estate and still have a job. Mm-hmm. So with trucking, whereas if you were to start as a driver, that is your job.
Yep, that is
but
your job.
With real estate, you can own property, go to work, and then come back to the property you own. Also, real estate, you have appreciation with your homes. You're 3% on average per year, but some years your property may go up 10 to 20%. And that's something you didn't do anything for, you didn't have to work for. Your value just increased due to the way that real estate works. Now, real estate can go down, but if you're making a rental income and you're living there anyways, why would you care if your property value is zero for 2 years? When you have to have somewhere to live anyway. We're all in real estate, so we all need a place to live. So why not own and deal with your property going up and down, knowing it's going to go up over time, eventually, when you need somewhere to live anyways. So those are some advantages. Also, no one can kick you out. A lot of times, especially dealing with COVID, these property values went up, so people were looking to sell. So if you're a renter and you live in that property, then guess what? They're going to kick you out and they're going to sell their property. Or they can have an issue with a family member, say their mom is sick or anything, and they want to move their mom into the property. You're not the owner, so you're going to have to leave. So by at least owning property and land, you always have somewhere to go. You always have somewhere to put your head. Okay, so this is what everyone wants to know. How much money can you make in trucking and real estate, and how much does it cost to get those first couple of trucks or those first few houses, and how can you grow from there? So let's start with trucking.
Okay, so with trucking, it is a very difficult question to answer because there's so many different avenues of how to make money. So I'm going to try to generalize it to a way that everybody can relate to. So with company-wise, after you get your license, you're on the road, and you're starting company, obviously you start making money right away. Even at, say, $25 an hour, you got to do, $25 an hour is times 70. And, that's what you're going to be your weekly pay before taxes and all the other stuff. So, which is a good chunk of change, obviously. And there's other ways that you can get paid as well, but it's usually hourly, cents per mile, and per load. So cents per mile, right now, I think the average cents per mile over the road is like somewhere around 50 cents per mile. And then regional, you'll probably cut that down just a little bit because you don't drive as far. So with leasing or getting paid per load, right off the jump, getting into your truck, you'll probably start out making somewhere around $2,000 per week. And the reason why you don't start off making a ton, which is a good amount of money, don't get me wrong, but it's not a ton of money, because when it comes to leasing, you have to first understand how you get paid, okay? Because each load going somewhere, coming from somewhere, east to west, north to south, it all pays different. There's a market for it. Most of the people live in the Northeast, so loads that go to the Northeast pay the most. There's more people there. If you go from Ohio to Pennsylvania, it's going to pay a bunch of money. If you go from Pennsylvania to Idaho, it usually don't pay a lot of money because not a lot of people live in Idaho. So you got to understand how the market works and what you're transporting. So once you figure out how that works, then your money will jump up a substantial amount. But for cents per mile and hourly, it just, however you run, or however that company runs you, or however that system works, is usually the same every week. But again, you're still probably looking at somewhere around $2,000 per week gross. And it can fluctuate on bonuses and things of that nature. But right off the jump, you're probably looking at around $2,000 either way you look at it. Which for most people, they don't make that in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So to make that in a week, that's good money. It's definitely good money.
So starting off, no college degree, just 3-month class.
Yeah.
You can make about $2,000 a week gross.
Gross.
Absolutely. Now, with that, what's the typical expenses looking like? And are you paying a truck payment? Does the company pay the truck payment, and how does that work?
So for cents per mile and hourly, you don't have any expenses because you're W-2. So all you got to do is worry about what the government takes out at the end of the week, and you get whatever's left over. Which I also forgot to say is a benefit for trucking, is that you get paid every single week. Whatever loads or money you did for that week, that's what you get. There's no wait. It's there. Mm-hmm. So if your pay period ends Tuesday or Wednesday, that's when most of them end. On Friday, you get paid for what you did on Tuesday and Wednesday. So it's a huge benefit. So yeah, for getting paid cents per mile, getting paid hourly, there's no expenses at all. All that money is yours to do freely however you want. When you're talking about leasing or owner operating, you have deductions that come out every week. The fuel, if you have a reefer, it's reefer. If you have a truck payment, it's a truck payment. If you have a GPS that the company provides, you pay for that. Your DOT, which is your insurance, you pay for that. If you have a trailer that you have to pay for, you pay for that. And then of course any expenses that happens to the truck, you have to pay for that as well. So with lease and owner op, there's a lot more risk into it, but you make a lot more money. So there's anybody that tells you when you're owner op or leasing that you just make all this money and there's really not much you have to worry about, and they make X amount of money per week, they're lying to you. There's no way you can make the same amount of money per week unless you're doing the same exact loads per week. And at that point, you might as well go regional or local or whatever the case may be, because you're doing the same thing every time. So there's going to be weeks where company will make more than you, and there's going to be weeks where you make more than company and regional combined. So it's really a hit or miss. You just never know what's going to happen. But that's the nature of business. I mean, that's with any business. You get an employee that quits, you get a roof leak, you get a plumbing issue, you get an HVAC, you get these things that just pop up. And sometimes it'll be once in a blue moon, or it could just be bam, bam, bam. So I mean, that's just how business works. But usually the overhead for trucking, I'm just going to generalize it, after fuel, if you have a truck payment, after insurance, and all the little other gadgets inside, you're probably looking at about $2,500 to $3,000 a week of what it costs. So you have to make more than that before you start making money, which sounds like a lot. It really does, but it's really not a lot. You can make that in a load or two. It just depends on where you live. It depends on how you run and things of that nature, and how smart you can be. So it sounds like a lot, but trust me, you can grow $7,000-8,000 in a week in a truck. I've done it a few times, so it's definitely possible.
Okay. So there's 2 routes you can go, it seems like.
Yes. There's a lot of routes. It's a lot of little things inside those, but those are the big big like, okay, what are the choices to go? Company or lease, company or owner op. You know, those are really the only two, and then there's like stages inside of those that you can choose to go that will, you know, make you the most money in the best situation that you're in.
Yeah. So when you lease, I mean, when you completely own the truck, you're making payments. That's more risky, but the reward is higher.
Yes.
And if you want to just work for a company and be a W-2 employee, that's less risky, but the reward is lower.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's really just about your risk tolerance level and deciding where you want to start.
Exactly.
What our mindset, we going owner.
We're going that way. Well, a lot of people don't like paying taxes, and a lot of people don't like the fact that you might not make no money because of your truck payment, because of being in a shop. But if your truck breaks down for 2 months, your truck payment still comes out regardless. There's no way around it. So a lot of people don't like that risk, and they don't understand. They don't know how to manage for that. And if you can't do it, then it's not for you. Don't do it, because once you get in that hole, it's hard to get out, because still at the end of the year, when you got to file these taxes, the government still want their money. Regardless of whatever situation you might have been in, you are in, the government still wants their money. So you just got to understand how to have multiple accounts. You know, money put away different places, a rainy day or e-fund, how to not spend money on things that you don't need to spend money on. It's a lot of self-discipline, really. It really is. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good information. So as I said, you know, real estate is a long-term game.
Long-term.
So we're not starting out with a home. We're not making $3,000 a week in real estate.
Yeah.
The benefit of real estate is because of the appreciation, the tax benefits, the income that you get, the loan paid down over time. But on a typical house, it really depends on your area. But in my area, you can get homes for $100 to about $200, $250, depending on what type of home you want, $1,000. And then of course you have a mortgage payment that comes out every month. So once you pay that mortgage payment, then you just need to account for expenses. So the typical mortgage payment in my area is between $600 to $1,200. So that's your mortgage payment. And on a home that the payment is around, say, $800, it could probably rent for around $1,400 to $1,500. Ideally, you want to start small. My first property, the mortgage payment is only $545 and it rents for $1,200. So on $545, that's a small mortgage, but the property was only $85,000-$90,000. So you know, you want to make sure you start small and build up. You don't want your first property to necessarily be $300,000.
Right.
However, if you do want to go short-term rental route, the $300,000 property may be best. But in this example, we're just referring to the typical person. So when you have a mortgage payment of about $700, you want to take at least 10 to 15% of that to account for expenses. So you want to take that 10 or 15% out of your rent that you're getting for the property. So if your rent is $1,300, 10% of that is $130. Plus another, this is for like your vacancy rate. Whenever someone leaves and comes, you have to turn over that property. This is also for maintenance when things come up. You don't want to spend your total rent every month and then you have things come up. Just like you said, you need to account and hold for a rainy day. So once you take out your vacancy and maintenance on $1,300 that you may be getting for rent, that may take your rent down to $1,100 or $1,050. And then that $1,050 or $1,100 is what you want to subtract that mortgage payment from. So the typical home for a typical person, you may profit around $300 a month, which is a decent number. Is more than what you have, but you also are getting knowledge, education, networking. You're learning how to manage tenants. You're also learning how to acquire your next property. And now you have this property on your credit report. So now when it's time to buy the new property, you already look good. They already know you know what you're doing. So now you're more liable to get another property. So as these properties can accumulate over time, that's as you can grow as well. So it's not the $300 per month is what you should be looking at, but the intangibles that you're getting with that $300 per month.
I feel like one thing though that has to be also said in comparing the two right off the jump is that you got to remember for your real estate investment, you're still working your job.
Yeah.
So you have your job plus
Uh-huh.
what you're getting from your house. Whereas as far as trucking, that is your job. If you're going straight into becoming a driver, because some people have invested into trucking and never been into a truck, which you can do. It's a lot more riskier, and I wouldn't recommend it. But you gotta remember, if you are going into a truck, that becomes your job. So that is all basically the money that you're making compared to where in real estate investing, you have a job plus whatever you're making from the house. So let's just remember that when we're talking about numbers, because that makes a difference.
I actually forgot about that. Another key thing is there's different methods. So your normal rental may be 13 for that same property, but Section 8 might be 16. Airbnb might be 2,200. The method I teach is roommate investing. So you fill the rooms with different people. Now each person is paying $500, which may take that $1,300 in income and turn it to $2,000 a month. And now you're taking your 10 or 15% of the $2,000, and now your monthly rental income is much higher. So these are typical numbers that you can expect when first entering real estate or trucking. So in closing remarks, do you have anything that you think can just benefit someone looking to start in trucking, or any tips for them?
If you feel stuck and you need to get your life on track and you can give yourself 6 months to a year to do it, trucking is the place for you. Again, multiple businesses, make over 6 figures. I've done so many different jobs. I've done so many different things. I've looked into so many different things. There's no more sure guarantee than trucking. You can get started right away. You start making money right away. And it doesn't have to be something that you do for 30 years. It just has to be something to help you get to where you're going. In these 6 years, I've started 4 different businesses. I currently do 3 others right now, plus on top of the trucking. So it's not the only thing I do. It doesn't have to be the only thing you do. The trucking just helps me be able to fund my other dreams as well. So it's at this point, it's a benefit. It's a pure benefit, and there's so much that can come from it that you just don't even know or understand yet. And there's a way to look at life differently as well, because when you get out of your normal everyday habits of what you do and how you do, and you start seeing the country and being out over the road and getting paid weekly, and all that stability and all that stuff kicks in, it's huge. It's different. It's life-changing, honestly. So if it's definitely something you're thinking about doing, there's so many ways to start. You just got to find which way is best for you. There's ways to start with no money. There's ways to start with money. I mean, there's so many different ways to start. You just got to figure out what is best for you and go out there and do it, because I guarantee you, you will be so thankful you did, and you'll see just how much life has gotten better for you. What about you?
So my biggest tip would be just consistency and applying the knowledge.
Yes.
So as you're applying
Definitely.
the knowledge and being consistent, the answers are going to come to you. You don't have, it's science, but it's not rocket science. You're not going to have to go like finding this and finding that. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, the answers are going to come to you. Like, people bring me houses. People call me, say, I see a house down the street, you should look into this, because they know that I'm reputable. They know that I'm about my business and I'm consistent. Whenever they see me, this is what they see. Whenever they talk to me, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not necessarily talking about what we did last night or what happened yesterday. This is what I'm talking about. So if you call me 10 times in a month and this is all you hear, eventually, that's engraved in your brain. Whenever you see anything real estate, you're calling me. So that's because I was consistent. And also, don't always look to chase that next shiny object or that next thing. You know, you have to really give it your all and try for a while before you even think about moving on. I almost messed up my whole business because I thought it would be better for me to do real estate in Florida instead of where I currently live. But where I currently live, I was living there for 5 years already. So I knew the market, I knew the neighborhoods, I knew everything about where I was, and I was about to leave because I was chasing the next thing. But luckily I was able to start reading, get to some books, and I learned that, you know, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and whatever you need or whatever you want to do is right in your own backyard. It's right here. You can start a business right now, tonight. You don't have to, let me go do this. I have to do this first. I have to buy this first. You don't have to do any of that. You know, with the amount of resources that we have, social media, YouTube, even Instagram, digital courses, just blogs. You can learn everything you want to learn from a blog. So the main point is just to, you know, making sure you're consistent, make sure you stay on track with what you want to do, and make sure you're not constantly changing around and jumping around to the next thing because you think it's not working or you're not motivated or anything. You know, by you being consistent and you putting in the work, it's going to come to you and the answers come to you. You know, you're going to meet the people that you need to meet in order to get you where you need to be. So that would be my tip. And with that, we're done. If you all want more information, please like, subscribe, leave us a comment. If you have any questions, we can answer your questions and just let us know. But thank you for tuning in.
Thank y'all.